My guest today is Shawn Reilly Simmons, co-founder of Level Best Books, a publisher, small boutique publisher, and I am so excited to have you here and to talk about your path. So welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor, and it's nice to be on the other end of the interview for once. I'm usually on the other side, but this is very nice, and I'm honored that you asked me.
Well, thank you. I know that feeling of always being on the one side of the chair. Well, let's start with a little bit of your background. So I know that we shared a small publisher once upon a time, and you have gone into business on your own as a publisher. And, I'm very curious as to what took you there, but you started like we all did as a writer. So let's start with a little bit about your background there.
Yeah, I was. The first thing I did was organized a large mystery convention in the DC area every spring, and through that, I started meeting a lot of different writers and sort of got to know a lot of people because I literally knew nobody. I didn't have any contacts in the industry at all, and then I got a publishing deal with our former press, and that was very exciting. But I had been writing short stories too in between, so the very first thing I ever got published was a short story, in fact, and then that same year, I think it was later that year, the first set of novels came out, which was that was all it was a very heady time. So right after all of that, I was on Facebook one day and I saw that Level Best was actually previously owned by a set of editors. This was the second set of editors. They founded it in 2003 just for one purpose, to publish an anthology of the best New England crime stories. That
Hmm.
was all that the press was there for.
Oh, I didn't
So
know that.
I
That's
saw,
interesting.
yeah, it was just for that, and that every year would be released at New England Crime Bake. So I'd been to New England Crime Bake, and I've been to all the cons because I'm a con gal. So I saw that post and I'm like, oh, that's just such a, it's a shame because it's an MWA approved press. It's award winning. It's respected. And, yes, it was very niche, but it was still had gone through all those hurdles to get, it was legit. So
Mhm.
I sent them a message and I said, hey, to one of the editors who every single year would come to my convention. I'm like, hey, what's going on with that? That's just a shame because I'm a short story writer on top of it. So losing a market, losing a place to get published was also not great,
Mhm.
in my opinion. So they said, yeah, it's just, we really don't want to do this, but we just don't have the time. And they were all published authors with multiple series and a lot of things going on. And it's a ton of work. It's a ton of work just to do one anthology. It's a ton of work.
Yeah.
So I said, hey, what do you think about letting me have it? And they said, we've had other people ask, and we didn't think it would be a good fit, but we wouldn't say that to you. So please, if you'd like it, please come and talk to us. I'm like, okay. So I went up to Boston and I had a meeting with them, and I bought the company. So, and it was like I said, they said, all we ask is that you do that anthology for 3 more years. So we did it for 5.
Mhm.
And then I said, well, we're going to want to do other things. And they said, yeah, that's fine. I said, also, we're not from New England. Is that cool? And they're like, yeah. So, but it was sort of, that's how it all went. But it really was just to save that anthology. That's what it was about.
So was it a quick decision like you describe it to be, or was there a lot of going back and forth? And I know you have a partner, so I mean, how quick was that decision? You just knew that this is what you wanted to do, or did you have to really, think about it?
It was very, like many things I've done that have been huge life changing things. I decided on the spot, and that was just for some reason I was really compelled to do it. So I just wanted. I thought this is what we should do. Let's just get this done. And within a couple of weeks that I had it all. I saw that post and I went up and it was all done. So that was that. It was real fast, and I've done other big giant things real fast too. So it's just what I do. But
It's
yes,
nice to
it
meet a
wasn't.
kindred spirit because I'm quite similar in that respect. I know a lot of people who hem and haw and, really process through things, and it takes a very long time to make a decision. And I'm like, no, let's do it right now.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think the spontaneity, it was exciting, and it was, and also just I didn't want to lose this opportunity. And
Mm.
then we just started working, and I think we did the anthology the first year. I think we did 2 other anthologies. So we stuck to short stories that first phase. And then the next year we decided to add some novels. And I said, we're getting into a whole different kind of business here. So, and we had other partners that have since left, and but we all were like, okay, let's give this a shot. And our first novel that we did was nominated for Agatha Award, so that wasn't too bad. I'm like, oh, maybe we have something here. And
Yeah.
then the anthologies continued to do well and get recognized, and so it was very nice to take something over that was already in place, but then expand on it and grow it into something different.
What made you expand from short stories and anthologies into novels?
Well, that's a good question. I think it's because we were all so much involved in other areas of the mystery world, and people were coming to us and sort of pitching books, and we're like, "Oh, well, that sounds exciting." And then I was very heavily entrenched in writing my novels at the time, and I remember saying to them, like, "This is different. This is a, you do an anthology. It's like you get a contract. Maybe you hold the rights for a year. The author always holds the rights, but maybe you have the right to publish it for a year."
Mhm.
And then they get it back. And now we're getting into bed with people for like 5 years, 6 years, a long time. So
Or
let's be selective.
indefinitely, as we know.
Right, right. Or you're in hell forever. No,
Yeah.
yes, we don't want to go there.
No, we don't.
But yes, so that was, yeah, we've already been through there. But that's how it started. It was someone sent us a book and it was really good. We all really liked it. And we're like, okay, let's try this. Let's do this. And then we got ourselves set up to do novels. And it really was sort of like just finding our way. And then
Mhm.
once we started having that initial success, then we are flooded. We're flooded every week with people sending a lot of stuff that I have to get through. We all have to get through.
So you work as an editor, correct? Do you still write?
Yes. Yes. I'm very tired. Yes. Yes. I'm just kidding. No, I read,
Yeah.
read a lot. Yeah. I've actually just finished another short story this weekend, and then my novels have come back out
Mhm.
through Level Best, and that series is now continuing. I have been invited to submit to a bunch of different anthologies this year, so I got a lot of stuff on the calendar. But yes, I
Mhm.
have to carve out time every day just for that. But running the business does take up a lot of my day. So I try to
Yeah.
get the writing done first thing if I can. So
So you
yeah.
act as an editor, an acquiring editor, I'm assuming, and how many other people, like, what does your business look like?
Well, we have two partners now. We had four, and we've come down to two. But we
Mhm.
have now a staff of people. We didn't used to. It used to just be the four of us basically doing everything. Um, and now we have the two partners, and we both are editors. So we have a stable of authors, and we each take primary on whichever ones we're working with. But we both end up working with all of them in the end. But that's we start out. You start out with one of us, and then we do go through all the developmental stages, editorial stages, and then we get it ready for production. So, but in addition to us, we have a marketing admin assistant who's wonderful, who just does so much stuff for us. It's amazing, and I love just sending her emails like, "Hey, can you take care of this?" So she
Mhm.
does. She's wonderful. We have a production editor that handles all the files and like getting stuff ready for publication, like all that fiddly intricate work that to make things look good when they get published. So we have her. We had a junior editor who was our intern that we had for a couple of years, and she's just left.
Mhm.
So we were looking for a new junior editor. But she was
Mhm.
great because she was a college age student, and we have a YA imprint, and she was really good at picking out, this is good. I like this way this story runs. So she was actually doing some developmental editing for us towards the end, and she was doing really good. But she's gone on to go work. It's a giant corporation. She's very excited about.
Mhm.
Um, and we have a slush pile group of readers. So they
Oh.
comb through things that come in over the transom, and then they will bring them to us and say, "Hey, we have four of them," and they'll just
Mhm.
say, "This is a gem," because it's really hard when it's just all flowing in, and we don't want to lose anything and miss anything. So we do have those people coming through those submissions. But yeah, that's basically. I feel like I'm missing. Oh, and we have a bookkeeper. I forgot about
Mhm.
that. So we have, but we are expanding and looking for hopefully to get some more editorial roles filled. But so far we're doing pretty good with our team, and it's all
Yeah.
women, it's a women owned and run business, 100%.
Yeah. I love that. I know I spoke with you about book covers, so you do your book covers in-house as well.
Yes, yes. I do most of that. I do a lot of the book covers. We do have a couple of artists that we do work with, and we have some authors that have always had the one artist that they love. And as long as
Mhm.
everyone's cool with it, we don't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
But yes, we do. We don't. We're not a vanity press or a co-op or whatever hybrid. Everything is
Mhm.
done in house. Obviously it's traditional publishing. So, but yeah, it's been.
Yeah.
I like doing the art. It's kind of fun. It's fun,
It
and
is.
your art is beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a great kind of reprieve from the word side of things. It's a different tapping into a different part of your creativity, which I love. And it gets me out of my head and out of my stories, which I need a break from. I'm sure you do too.
Yeah, and Absolutely, and it's like a little palate cleanser, a refresher. And I try to do them. I do try to structure my week where I have a focus each day, and I have Thursdays sort of set aside for like graphics. That's the focus. Like what is due, what needs to happen, how is everything looking. I just sort of like so I don't feel insane. I feel
Hmm.
I try to. So Thursdays are fun because I can put on some music and sit and play with the book covers, and it is nice when they come back and they love something right away.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
but the process, yeah, that's lovely. It's nice.
Yeah.
And I have to say that, yeah, as you know, yeah.
I've worked with
But
some
our
people who
process,
are very difficult, I will say. I'm surprised, with my publishing contracts, they pretty much come with to you with a cover and say, "Hey, what do you think? What's your feedback?" And the reality is you don't really have much feedback option. You basically say, "Oh yeah, it's really nice," or "It's really nice." But
yeah,
as an
exactly.
independent cover designer, I've had some clients that are just really persnickety and difficult, and it's sometimes it's a challenge.
Absolutely. It can be tricky.
Mhm,
We always keep it in the contract that we have final say. So it
mhm,
really is sort of a courtesy that we do this process. But I do like the idea of the authors having some kind of buy-in because I think if you're proud of something and you really love the way something looks, you're going to be more enthusiastic about getting out there with your book.
absolutely.
So yeah, we like to be collaborative, but we do have to draw the line sometimes where it gets crazy. It's like, okay, that's enough. It's enough
Yeah,
feedback. But
yeah,
what we do is I have a form that I have them fill out, and I say, what are your thoughts? And there's just multiple questions that they answer, and then I say, basically pointing to what do you think this book cover should be, and then
yeah,
I always say, please give me some examples of book covers that you like. And
right.
it'll be interesting because sometimes the words do not match up to the things that they're showing me visually that they like. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
this person really likes blue, even though they said no blue. Um, so I just sort of like, and then I give them 2 to 3 options, most of the time 3, and then they choose from those, and that's how we do it. But would have to say 90% of the time, everyone is just like, oh, I like number 3, and sometimes I get really lucky and they like all of them, and then there's the series, and all the work is done.
Oh,
But
yeah.
yes, that it is a fun part of the job. I do enjoy it.
Yeah. So let's go back and talk about how you structure your week. I really love that you brought up that you have a focus for the day. So is every day structured that way that you have a focus? I know you said you tend to write your own stuff in the morning or in the beginning of the day and then you move on to your business, but how do you structure your week? I love that because I try to do that too. I'm not always successful, but I do podcast Tuesday, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and during these hours so that I can control my time better.
Yeah.
If I open it up, then suddenly I've lost control of my calendar and my day. And so I try really hard to control that and to structure my week so that I can be as productive as possible with the things I need getting done. But it's not always easy. But I'd love to hear how you do that.
Yeah, and there's always going to be outliers. And if you get a big name author that wants to come on your podcast, they can only do Mondays, and
Yeah.
obviously you're going to make that happen. But I do like to, you know, have it for the same reason because you start feeling like you're insane if you're always being pulled in all these different
Hmm.
directions. And for people that have multiple things on, so I have it on my corkboard over here. I print it out every year. I do like a vision board and schedule my week. So Mondays I do organizing. Organizing is cleaning out all the inboxes, answering
Hmm.
any outstanding emails, getting looking at the calendar, like what's going on this week. So and then I always have a meeting with our assistant, a standing meeting every Monday morning. We just talk about what has to happen. Is anyone freaking out? Like what's going on? So that's
Yeah.
Monday. And I try to load meetings towards the front part of the week just because I like to have some free. Thursday and Friday, I like to be free
Hmm.
of things. Although, like I said, there's always going to be something. And then Tuesday, I focus on marketing, and that's for the
Hmm.
business. So we have releases come out on Tuesdays. So and our marketing person is doing most of the heavy lifting, but I will just have a focus on outreach to bookstores, libraries, putting stuff on social media, just making sure everything's looking good for the authors that day,
Hmm.
thinking of new things to do. Setting books out for review is a big one. And I make sure I do that on Tuesday so I just don't forget, and I go through the list and like whose books, whose arcs are ready to go out.
Hmm.
And then Wednesday is podcast day. I focus on podcast. And
Hmm.
all of this being said, like if something pops up in another area, like it gets handled. It's not like I'm like, oh, you have to wait till next Tuesday. But Wednesday I focus on the podcast, and
Hmm.
I try to schedule all my interviews that day, and then marketing and promoting of the podcast. All this, all the stuff you have to do behind
Do
the
you
scenes
edit
to
your
make it.
podcast yourself? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
that
I
takes a
do.
lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of time.
Yeah. Yeah, everything we do, and it's all fun. It's all fun
Yeah.
things, but they do their time. But if you want it to be good and professional and correct, you're going to take you put care into it. I
Hmm.
also produce. My partner has a podcast, and I
Hmm.
produce her podcast. And she does one that focuses on history
Hmm.
novels and things like that. So hers comes out less frequently than mine, but it's on Sundays. And then Thursday, as I said, is fun graphics day. Maybe I might have a glass of wine at 3 and keep doing book covers all night. You never know that
Yeah.
day. And then Friday, I tried to focus on my household, like my own personal house. Like if I have to
Hmm.
do any appointments or take the car to the shop or anything like that, I try to do that on, like pay the bills and that kind of stuff on Friday. And you have to have a day to do
Hmm.
your house, or your house starts falling apart.
Yeah.
Saturdays for family and Sundays for relaxing and writing. And the weekends I do try to bulk up my word count if I've had an off, like I didn't wake up early enough on morning.
Hmm.
So weekends I try to focus on family and just writing because they love football and they watch sports constantly. So I can be like just sitting with
Yeah.
them and they don't even know I'm writing. So that's fine. So that's the
So
week.
what I didn't hear in there is your editorial commitments. So when are you reading and when are you acquiring and when are you editing?
Yeah. I try to stop hard work at like between like 4 and 6 and read. So I try to
Hmm.
do at least a couple hours a day. If in developmental editing takes, to sit and read it. But yeah, towards the end of the day, because I'm tired of, line editing at times sometimes. And it's just nice to get away from the screen and then I can sit and read
Hmm.
from 4 to 6. I mean, it's a different screen, but at
Yeah.
least it's a different screen. But yes, I have carved that out.
Very, very busy. As you said
Hmm.
earlier to me, you wear a lot of hats. You definitely do. I thought I did.
Oh, and then, well, it's funny because I used to do this giant convention in DC every year, which
Malice,
I no
right?
longer. Yeah, I did Malice for 20 years, and I resigned and retired.
Hmm.
Essentially turned everything over to the new person that's doing it now, and that was a huge, gigantic workload.
Oh my
So
gosh,
that
yeah.
is it's this is the first year I'm not feeling that because it would be very. I would have to like turn. Wednesdays had to be Malice days back then, so I would
Mhm.
have to turn and just work on them all day. So now I have that freed up.
Now you're on VoucherCon.
Exactly. Yes, I'm on the board, and it's 4 years away. Oh, three. It's now 3 years since we're in 2024. So it's technically 3 years. But yes, that's less work intensive because I was really like the operational engine at Malice, and this is more. I'm on the board. Yes, it's going to be busy, but we have a big committee, and we're
Mhm.
actually meeting next week to talk about our meeting schedules and like who's going to be taking on what roles and that kind of thing. So we're still in the
Mhm.
beginning infancy, but I'm not feeling too freaked out about it because I did Malice for so long. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like I kind of know how it should look.
You're doing VoucherCon for 2027, so it's a one-off versus an every year kind of thing, right?
Yes, but you're on the board, so you're required to go to the meetings and things. But I think they're like seasonal. They're less frequent. They're
Mhm.
definitely less frequent at this point for me. And they're Zoom. But yeah, it'll increase with frequency as we get closer to our date. But
Mhm.
we have to go to Nashville first, and then it's gonna be Nashville, and then New Orleans and Calgary, and then us. So there's three
Yeah.
ahead of us. But I will be,
Yeah.
asked to go to meetings when I'm on site and stuff like that. But it's very exciting. I'm on the communications committee.
Oh,
They asked me
wow.
which committee I wanted to do, so I was doing communicate. I'm like, that's the one I know because it was like legal. I'm like, you know,
Yeah.
I want to do the fun one where I talk to everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you like to go to conferences? Do you go as Shawn Reilly Simmons, the author? Do you go as Shawn Reilly Simmons, the editor of Level Best, or both when you go to conferences?
That's a good question. I do go to as both. I hadn't been, obviously none of us had been for a couple
Mhm.
years, and then I
Mhm.
couldn't go the following year after that because I was had cancer, so I was going through chemo for almost a year.
Mhm.
So I didn't go to them for a while. But when I came back out this year, I went to San Diego, and it was amazing.
Mhm.
And I was there as me. I think I was there as me on a panel, but I was also there. I was there a lot as level best because there were 40 of us there. And I set up meetings with everyone if they wanted to sit with me for 15 minutes. They
Mhm.
didn't have to, or then So I had like a little space outside the Starbucks, and they would come, and
You mean
I was
40 of
scheduled.
your authors were there? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had a big turnout, and we had a little gathering at one of the bars one night or one
Mhm.
afternoon. But yeah, so I was there a lot of the time. I was there as level best and a new VoucherCon board member too. So that was also that was my debut. I
Wow.
was initiated into the board there. But yeah, I was also on a panel about characters, I think. But it was a lot of business talk. So it was a lovely trip. It was wonderful. I had such a good time. That
That's
was
great.
really well run. Yeah, it was really, really well done. The BoucherCon in San Diego was excellent.
Good. And your health is okay now?
Yeah, I'm doing really good. I actually go for scans tomorrow.
Oh,
So that'll be a year. When they give me the all clear, it'll be 1 year under me. So the further out you get, I think you get a little less like ski anxiety, but
yeah.
it's not,
I
you
can
know, like, I
imagine.
don't want to go back down there. I really don't want to go, but I have to go. But yeah, they haven't touched me in a year, so that's lovely. And I hope to be able to say that next week. So
That's great. Well, I'm glad to hear that.
Today's episode is sponsored by WriterSpark Book Cover Design. I know how challenging it can be to get top quality, stunning book covers at an affordable price. This is why I created WriterSpark Book Cover Design. I create beautiful book covers that are competitive in the marketplace at prices that will not break your budget. Each of my covers, pre-made or custom, uses premium design and typography elements. All textual elements are customizable. That means the title, subtitle, author name, and cover quote. Affordable pricing doesn't mean sacrificing quality. Check out WriterSpark Book Cover Design at www.writersparkbookcovers.com. I would love to work with you.
How, what is it like in your brain? Because I have to say, when it comes to January, I, take a little time to reflect on the year prior. And then I take some time to think about what I want this year to look like. And last year was just crazy for me. I had so many writing projects of my own. I have the podcast. It's been about a year and a half, I think, for the podcast. I have a writing academy. So I have online courses that I run. I have all of these things going on. And so many times I have felt incredibly overwhelmed. And so I decided to really pull back and not do so many of my own writing projects. I'm working on one thing and I'm not putting anything up for pre order until much later. So I don't have that pressure. And I must say, since I've been feeling a little bit better after being sick with that RSV, the last week I've been focused in writing and it's been so lovely to not have my brain crowded with all of these other pressures and things going on. So how do you feel overwhelmed? Do you thrive on that? I mean, I didn't realize how overwhelmed I was until I really pulled back.
yeah. Yeah, and I think you gave yourself that break and you pulled
Mm-hmm.
back and then look, your creativity started to flow. I mean, not that it was, stilted, but you gave yourself a break and I think that's what we all have to do.
Yep.
Um, I don't feel. Well, it's funny because I had to spend a lot of time in bed for 20. So because I was running, running, running. I think in 2019, before everything shut down, I was away. I was away 12 times. I was at either book conferences, family trips. I went to everything. I was gone once. I was every single month. I had some kind of trip somewhere. I was in Canada. I was in Paris. I was everywhere. Texas. And we all went to Dallas. So then everything screeched to a halt and then we started focusing on being home and that was a big transition for me because when you go away I found myself falling behind on a lot of things because it's not like you get off the plane you go right back to work. You have to like decompress at least I do for a day or
Right.
two and
Yeah.
sometimes you're sick after that and so that all of that kind of went away and then I went through all of 22 sort of struggling to even have enough energy to do anything. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
just surprised that we were able to do anything and we published over 100 books and I don't know how it happened. I couldn't tell
Wow.
you. I couldn't tell
Yeah.
you how that happened. We did
Amazing.
bring on staff. Yeah, it was so now when I feel a little bit like I have so much work, I'm like, well, I managed to get it all done when I was really sick and in a lot of pain and on painkillers a lot of the time, and throwing up and all the other lovely things that go along with chemo. So that's how I pep talk myself into not being overwhelmed. I'm like, I got this done when I was really, really at rock bottom. And I mean, I spent a couple weeks in the hospital. I mean, it was a mess.
Mhm.
So it's almost like when you're a runner and you run a marathon, you're like, I can, this is easy. I can run 5 miles. It's fine, but that's a really good question. But I think you do need to when you start feeling like you're not happy, even though we've chosen all these fun things to do. And that's really intriguing about your writing academy. I think I have not done that. That's one thing I'm not doing. um, that's very cool. But I think you're giving yourself a break. You're giving yourself the
Mhm.
grace to say, okay, I don't need to do 500 things. I can do
Mhm.
300 and then add some things back in if I feel like it. But the not traveling constantly was a big wake up call. It's like now it can be, and I've been everywhere. So it's like now I can be more selective about which things I'm going to go to this year and not be away from my family so much and the
Mhm.
work really and not fall
Mhm.
behind.
I'm a homebody, I find. Yeah, if I'm traveling too much or if I overcommit myself, I end up being resentful towards myself. Like, why did I say yes? A year ago it sounded fine to say yes, but now that it's upon me, I'm like, why did I say yes? I don't want to do this. I just want to be home.
Yeah,
So
I hear you.
I'm going to Atlanta next month. I'm speaking at the Atlanta Writers Club. They have a conference there, and I'm just like flying in that day, turning around, flying back the next morning. It's just quick, 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 as quick as I can make it.
That's well good. You've known now you know that about,
Yeah.
yourself. And
Hmm.
it's good to have those boundaries your own that you put in place for your own self.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
going to Atlanta in I think it's March. I think I'm going to be there in March for the Atlanta Writers Conference. They invited me to come and listen to pitches.
Oh, nice.
So I will be there in Atlanta. When I grew up in South Florida, so I assumed everyone flew through Atlanta to go anywhere because that's what we always did. So when I was a
Hmm.
little kid, you're like, oh, you go to Atlanta first and then you go wherever else you want to go. But
Yeah.
not quite. But I have been through the airport a million times as a kid, so can't wait to see it.
Yeah. How fun. So, what keeps you going with Level Best? So, what is it that, so initially you said you didn't want to see this MWA publisher approved MWA approved publisher go away. You felt like you wanted to keep it going and to continue on what had already been created. But it is a lot of work. And, in a very crowded field, and especially with indie publishing as it is now, what keeps you going with it when there's so much competition and just so many different pathways that people can take? Because I imagine it's really difficult.
Yeah, it's what keeps. I just love the authors, and
Mhm.
that is what keeps me going. I think that's the seed behind all of these things that I've done because I am that extrovert person out there. Like, let's have a party, let's throw a big
Mhm.
party, and we all come to it. That's me. Like, I started the podcast because I missed everybody, and it was I was isolated in my house, and I missed everyone, and I wanted to start interviewing, and it was also a way for our authors to get some exposure.
Mhm.
Um, so that was part of that. And voucher comics, I know I have the skill set to bring to help them make it a great thing. So it's all to do with the community. So for
Mhm.
me, it's every inspiration I've ever had is because I'm honored to be a part of this community because I've
Mhm.
been a part of other communities that aren't supportive and welcoming and are more cutthroat and you know um,
Sketchy,
difficult to be
perhaps.
around. Yeah, exactly. Backstabby, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And there's people like that here too, but the majority of this, I mean, this is my dream job. It's a
Mhm.
job I've always wanted. I'm totally cut out to do this work. I know what I'm doing. I'm good at building a team. I feel, and I love the edit. I really love collaborating with the authors on their books. So
Mhm.
when they turn in their manuscripts, and I love the developmental editorial stage. I can
Mhm.
talk. Um, you read it and then you give them their over, the big notes like, oh, why is this character doing this? And I think the story drags a little bit here. And what can we think of to make this better? That is my
Mhm.
favorite part. And then the covers are fun too, because we built this community and now we have 175 authors. We started out with not a lot. And now we have 175 roughly. And we have like Zoom meetings that they can all come to like once every couple months if they want to, they can come and chat and meet each other and see us. And we talk about what's going on with the business. And through that, a lot of them have met each other and paired off and gone on to do events together and things like that. So we're really sort of building a community as opposed to like, here's your book, have fun.
Yeah.
We really try to support them and help them and bring out good books. I mean, that's it. And I think you know there isn't competition because a person doesn't read a book over and over and over again every week. They're going to read your book and like, oh, I really love this book and it's set in the 1800s and it was wonderful, let me go find another author that writes kind of like this. And
Yeah.
so it's always this, it's a self-feeding positivity um, train if we can keep it going. So that's it. That's my dream job. I've worked in other jobs that I didn't think were fun. So I know what it's like to not work in your dream
Yeah.
job. I mean, I always did well. I was a salesperson. But when you're working for someone else, you're selling their thing and you're getting nice money, usually, hopefully, but it's their thing. So this is our thing. And
Mhm.
every single thing I do promotes something that we own and is ours. And that is the motivating factor.
That is pretty exciting to have created something out of nothing. It's very
Yeah.
rewarding. Yeah.
It is. It's like every time you write a novel, it's like that didn't exist a year ago, and now here you
Mhm.
are with this new story. And it's just it is the art of it's hard. A
Mhm.
lot of it is really hard. There's personality, especially being a publisher. There's personalities you have to deal with, and things. It's a business, so it's not
Yeah.
all rainbow and sunshine. There's things that happen and go wrong and things like that. But I want to get up and work every day. And like I said, when I sold, space on airplanes, it wasn't such. I mean, it was like this is not the most exciting thing to talk about, but here I am telling this. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's the driving factor. And it's very exciting when you feel like you're good at something that other people are
Mhm.
responding to. I feel like
Yes.
that's a big part of it too.
Yeah, I was a teacher. I was a public school teacher for a long time, an English major and all of that. And then I started writing and finally was able to leave the classroom. But teaching is just in my blood. And that's what led me to create the Writing Academy because I still wanted to teach, but I didn't want to go back to the classroom. So now I teach writing to aspiring writers or, somebody who wants to write a cozy mystery. I do one-on-one coaching and I also do freelance editing, so it's something that I really enjoy that's in my wheelhouse. And I'm able to do that and still stay within this industry that I'm passionate about, which is exciting.
Yeah, so you basically you and I are similar, and we've created sort of like our own little personal cottage industry inside
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
place we want to be. So
Yeah.
that is fascinating. So why did you start the podcast?
I started so when I first started, like you, I didn't know anything. I didn't know anybody. I didn't know anything. I knew I wanted to write a book, but I didn't know how to write a book. I was an avid reader. I knew how to read a book, but I didn't know how to craft a story. And the internet and resources were not what they are now back then. Back in the olden days, this was like 2002.
Yeah.
And I relied a lot on the people that I did meet. I joined RWA, Romance Writers of America, 'cause that was the organization near me, even though I was writing mysteries. And I've told this story before, but I had ultimately two offers of representation from agents, and one was a boutique agency, and she loved my story, and the other was a big agency. And everybody that I talked with about it said, go with the big agent, go with the big agency. And I don't regret my decision because I like where I am right now. But I do wonder what would have happened had I made the other choice because she was passionate about my work and the bigger agent wasn't. She thought she could sell it. And we revised it to make it more romance, which was a mistake because that wasn't what it was. I lost my voice in that whole thing. And anyway, long story short, she didn't sell it. And I ended up changing to a different agent altogether and brought it back to mystery. And then she did end up selling it. And so I learned so much over the course of 10 years, when I was going through all of this. And so, with the Writing Academy and with the blog and the articles that I write and with the podcast, it was sort of a way to pay it forward to help people get answers and learn stuff about the industry and learn from people who have come before, because we've all been there. We've all been at the beginning. And so it just started as a way to help people, to be there as a resource. And turns out it's fun to do, and my network has grown. I just know so many people now like you, and if I have a question about something, I have somebody I can ask, I can tap into, I can just reach out because I've spoken with so many people, and I continue to learn. I think we're always learning, and I love that as well. So that's kind of what led
Yeah,
me to
that's
the
awesome.
podcast.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and anytime you do anything that's benefiting other people in your community or other writers and supporting other members of the community, it pays you back 300,000 times over. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just how it works. I mean, it's just, you put out good energy and you're helping,
Hmm.
offering resources. I mean, that's all people really appreciate that. The good
Yeah.
people. I mean, there's, like I said, there's always a pill here and there, but
Yeah.
for the most part, everyone's great.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're very similar in that, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. We're very entrepreneurial. I was so excited the first time a PR person reached out to me to pitch their author to have on the podcast. I was like, "Ooh, I feel like I've made it now," because I'm not reaching out to people; they're reaching out to me now, which was also very exciting.
Yeah, the first time I got one of those, I was like, they know it's just me, right?
Yeah,
I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh. So I replied, I'm thinking, oh, they just probably send this to everybody. And they were like, oh yeah, she would love to be on the show. I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me. So
yeah,
it's Tuesday, but I had to do um, my interview this week for today because I have to go down to have scans tomorrow, which I don't want to do, but I'm going to do anyway.
mhm,
No, it's going to be fine. But she's from one of the big five publishing houses, and she came on my podcast last year, and she wanted to come back, and I'm like, all right, cool. It's really, and through a publicist, so that's awesome. But
that's
that's
really
what
great.
happens. I wasn't pushing it out to try to get that. It was just they came to us. So that's
Yeah,
what you want to have happen, because that's just the energy flow is coming back to you, as I said.
yeah, yeah.
Positivity.
So, what tips would you give to an author who's searching for the right path for them in seeking a publisher, or whether to go indie? Because we have, the indie path. I'm hybrid. I've been with a big publisher, a boutique publisher, and I've done indie. And there's pros and cons to all of those things. And so what would you say to somebody who's just not sure what direction to go? Do I go indie? Do I go with the boutique publisher? Do I go with somebody like Level Best? Do I go, try and get the agent and go to one of the big ones? Also, do you require agent submissions, or do you accept author submissions?
We accept author submissions.
Okay.
We're still currently doing that. We do work with quite a large number of agents at this point. So maybe
Mhm.
20 or 25 or so are always bringing us new stuff.
Mhm.
But yeah, we definitely don't turn someone down if they don't have an agent.
Okay.
Advice. That's such a good question, multi-layered question, because I think you really just have to sit down and decide what you want your publishing career to look like, and
Mhm.
what if you have to know what your skill set is, if you are able to, if you're not tech savvy or you're not sure um, how to create files to publish, then maybe indie publishing wouldn't be the best way, because there are plenty of people out there that will take thousands of dollars from you to do it for you. But
Yeah.
it really is, if you just kind of you can do it for almost free if you know what you're doing. So I was just talking with an agent last week, and he's really excited. His client really, really is excited about the prospect of working with us. And
Mhm.
he said, this man has been we are approached, my client is approached almost every single week with these, we'll publish your book. And he's a high profile, wealthy person.
Mhm.
And he's getting, they're like, they want $10,000 to publish his book. And I'm like, yes, they will do that. And
Wow.
that's fine. That is a way forward for whoever, if they want to do that. And they will, I guess they're sending you 1,000 books. I don't know what they're doing. But a lot of those are scams. So
Mhm.
I would do your research. Definitely just do your research on those kinds of things, because if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um,
I agree.
yeah, and then I mean, agents are a whole other thing, because like I said, we don't, but a lot of the major publishers, I think you pretty much have to have an agent to even get in the door at any of the
Mhm.
big New York publishers,
Mhm.
and sometimes even the smaller ones now. Um, so that's a thing you might want to pursue. But I hate to think people are waiting like 10 years to get an agent and not publishing, because you never know what life will bring you. So don't wait 10 years.
All right, and now it's so hard. I mean, I think that people, agents and editors alike, they want something that's already perfect. They don't want to put the
Yeah.
time. They don't have time to put in, and the competition is so stiff. So it is tough.
Yes, it is very tough. There are things that I don't know if they still have it, but there was a thing, they probably do, on X, which is used to be Twitter. There was Pitch Wars, and you could go on and pitch to. There was like an agent pool, and they would read submission.
Mm.
There are opportunities to get your name out there if you don't know anyone yet. So there's that too. And there's lots of writing groups and things that will give you advice online, and you can join those groups and figure that piece out. But yes, it's not the easiest thing in the world to get an agent sometimes. I mean, I got very lucky. I had three, and
Mhm.
they all asked me, so I didn't have to do that process. But I have friends that have had just struggled finding an agent.
Mhm.
And then I think you have to figure out how much work you have to market your work, no matter if you're with a big publisher or a small one. With the smaller one, you may have to do more than if you're a bigger one, but still, the bigger ones, they really kind of put a lot of marketing dollars behind the people that are already going to sell a lot of books.
Right. Yeah.
Everyone's going to buy John Grisham's book, and it's like,
Yeah.
it's going to be on the Today Show and on the New York Times, but it's like everyone's going to buy it anyway. So if you're a mid list, or God forbid, your one book doesn't do well, they're not gonna put a lot of money behind it to
Right.
support you. Unfortunately, I don't know why. I don't know why. I don't know why they do
Yeah.
that, but
It's a
they do.
crazy system.
Yeah. So have all of that in mind going in. So the upside, as you know, and we all know, if you indie publish, you get all that. That's ROI is all coming right back to you. You
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
if you a publisher will take a big cut of your earnings, so, and your agent will take a piece too.
Yeah. And they hold the rights for a long time, and
Yeah.
you may never get the rights back, or, it can take a long time depending on what the contract says. You know, it's tough when the sales are not there and it's been published with a publisher for 5 years or 10 years, and you can't do anything about it. You can't get it back to go with a smaller publisher or to indie publish it or anything, like that yourself. It's frustrating.
Yeah, definitely in whatever situation. When I was speaking of rights, I forgot to mention we do have an in-house agent that works on
Mhm.
sub rights for us. So she's out there selling audiobooks and mass market paperback deals and things like that. So I forgot about her. She's great. But that just reminded me because we're talking about rights, because you should have someone explain to you what the rights are in whatever contract you sign.
Mhm.
Because, you can be sweet talked into saying, oh, yeah, just keep them forever. And then
Mhm.
if that publisher just decides to stop publishing, but appears to still be working and doing things, then you're done. Well, at least that series is done. And then you have to think of something new. So,
Yeah, and understanding, print rights versus ebook rights and borrowing library rights, KU and things like that, because a lot of publishers are going the KU route with some, or you're going to cycle in and out, and that's totally different, and it can be set up in such a way that you'll never fall beneath or below the threshold that they set in order to get the rights back. So, yeah, definitely talk to somebody who knows contracts and
yeah.
know what you're signing. Yeah.
Yeah, and read every single thing in there,
Mhm.
because the thing you forget to read will be the one that will come back to get you later. But
Yeah.
yeah, and if you have a brother-in-law that's going to produce your book into a movie, don't hold on to your film rights. Perhaps, I mean, contracts should be negotiable, and
Mhm.
I would be very suspect of a publisher that won't negotiate with you on any of those types of things, because yeah, and especially if they don't have someone in-house selling these or exploiting these rights for you. So if
Mhm.
they're going to hold on to your audiobook rights for 10 years and they don't have anyone out there selling it, then you just gave that up.
Yeah.
Not that I'm trying to advocate for everyone to come at us all the time with our contracts, but speaking as an author, just
Yeah.
know what you're willing to. And then, sometimes you can say, if you don't sell the audio within 12 months, I would like those to revert back to me. And you can have that conversation. And if
Yeah.
a publisher is unwilling to talk to you about these finer points, then it's probably not a good, I'd be worried.
That's a red flag. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was in the industry for, I don't know, probably 10 or 11 years when I resold. I got the rights back to one series and resold it to that small press. And there were still lots of things that slipped by me and my agent, unfortunately, and that was probably the worst contract ever, and they weren't willing to negotiate, and it ended up being really a problem in the end. So that's why I think we're always learning, and that's why these types of conversations, I think, are so important, because at least that seed is planted that not everybody is out there looking at your best interest as an author, and you want to have a publishing company, an editor who's looking out for you, an agent obviously, but somebody like you and Level Best that is part of this, creating this community, and is there for the author, not just for yourself. That's so important.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the way I go into everything is I have a reputation in the community for being a helper, a nice person, someone who's, I like to maintain my reputation. So
Yeah.
there's where we conduct our business in such a way, like I'm not falling on my face here. Like this is just, it's very important to me. I came in fresh, didn't know anybody. Over 20 years, I've managed to meet a lot of people, and, I would like to keep that going and not have anyone be like, oh my God, they're awful. So not that
Yeah.
we're doing anything, but you know what I mean? Like I think what we came in, we're a known entity, I guess is what I mean. It's not like we're off the street, brand new people to the community. It's like you should know who we are, but at some point you've run into us here and there. I would think, at least our names. But that part I think is good. Not that you have to know your publisher intimately to have a good deal at all, but I
Mhm.
do think it's I think it helps us because we, like I said, we're not off the street hustler, trying to hustle people. But
Yeah.
it's just interesting what you said about the contract about your agent, because it's a very heady time when you get that call, and it's
Hmm.
very exciting to have, because sometimes you've been out submitting for years. I
Hmm.
had one author, she told me we were her 40th publisher or something that was submitted to. It's crazy. So it's a thrilling time. So it's easy to just be like, oh,
Emotional.
here, sign it, whatever. Yeah, you're just going
Yeah.
to sign stuff because you want it to happen.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind. It's not a marriage proposal. So that's when you can be like, yes, not it's also a business, also very emotional and exciting, but it's also still a business.
Yeah, and you have to try really hard not to let those emotions interfere with the logical side of your brain that's helping you negotiate this or understand what it is you're signing, to make sure that it is working in your favor, that you're represented in that contract, because a lot of contracts are not favoring the author at all. So,
Yeah. Yeah, just be on the lookout for those. And there's lists people have compiled of predatory publishers, and
mhm.
those are easy to search out on the internet. So you can also just Google, you know, I Google everybody. Like, hey, what are they saying about that person, entity, thing, business,
Mhm.
car shop? I
Mhm.
don't know. I just try to see what people, and you have, there's always going to be a few people that say stuff, but I always, try to take it all in. What's the majority? Like a book review. If like a whole bunch of people like it and a whole bunch of people don't like it, there's going to be, there's just people in the middle that are going to be like, I think it was okay.
Yeah.
But yes, and then there's also the manage. I joke with some of my, now we've signed authors that we've had for 5-6 years, been working with them for a long time on 5 books, maybe sometimes like one a year. And I would joke with a few of those people from the early years, like, I think I should get paid billable hours for like therapy, because I would be always constantly holding hands of authors is a big part of my job too.
Yeah.
It's a very, so setting the contrast is very exciting time. Also, when your book comes out is very emotionally like charged time. And stuff goes wrong in publishing sometimes, and or people get really nervous about how the books, I got a bad review, what should we do? I'm like, this is
Yeah.
just like, this is it, this is what we're doing. So
Yeah.
we're not pulling the book down because I got a bad review. So it's an emotional time throughout the process.
Yeah, and
But really
creatives are often a
anxiety.
little neurotic, aren't they? Aren't we?
Yes. Yes. I've had to tell
People.
a person to pull over their car because I was afraid she was in an accident, talking to me about
Oh,
something that went wrong. I'm like, but
oh
then
no.
it was turned out it wasn't wrong. I'm like, see, you would have crashed your car and it was not, nothing was even wrong. So just have to take it down a notch or 7. It'll be okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
But I am that very calm, sort of like, everything's gonna be fine. Like, I don't
Mhm.
ever sort of get beyond over this.
Mhm.
So I have that. And they always say you have such a calming way about you. I'm just gonna, but I've been, I think it was just working in restaurants early on, and the world is sort of burning around you sometimes. And you just have to keep focused and get through it, because
Yeah.
multiple people freaking out isn't gonna fix it. It's gonna make it worse. So let's
Right.
just stand in the center of the storm, figure it out, and then I would say, is everyone still alive? Then we're going to be fine. This is just a book, right?
It's
It's a book.
exactly, it's just a book. It's not life and death. I worked with a publisher. I was a co-founder of a publisher, and I was the developer of the marketing program, and I was with them for 5 years, and it everything was life and death. Like, it needs to be dealt with now, and it was a 24/7 job, and it wore me down, and eventually I just left. I just sold my shares and left, because I just didn't want to live with that high stress, high pressure. And it's just a book, it can wait till tomorrow. Nothing is so dire that we need to be talking at 2 in the morning, over this.
Exactly. If there are no publishing emergencies,
Right.
it's just, I
Calm
always
down.
say, right?
Calm
There are
down.
no emergencies in this industry.
Right.
My best friend's a hairdresser, and she says that she goes, there are no emergencies in hairdressing or publishing. It's like, it's
Yeah.
fine. The worst thing that can happen is like you get to your book event and the books aren't there.
Hmm.
We've had that happen a couple times. We've fixed it. That, like, early on, shipments got lost one year. It was like their second year or something like that. So you just, but that's a learning experience, and you learn from that, and
Yeah.
you move and you just get better. So I always have a focus on what is working. How can
Hmm.
I make this better? How can we build the business?
Hmm.
What kind of things can we shed? So those are my focuses every day. Like, what this, let's refine this process and make sure it works better. You kind of have to have systems in place when you have so many people.
Oh, yeah.
because it can get a little crazy. It can
Do
get
you use
crazy.
a system manager software type of thing?
My sister and I, we're on Todoist. We just share a Todoist, and she knows what I'm working on. I know what she's working on.
Mhm.
We're all in Dropbox together, the whole team, and then we have like um, systems in there that we all check off things that we've done, so we know where everyone is on whatever project.
Okay.
Then there's the whole thing with royalties.
Mhm.
That's my partner handles royalties and database management. That's our
Mhm.
assistant does that. So keeping the contact, they used to be all me. I did all that. So I moved to Hawaii. Great. I have to go in and change everything everywhere. So that's cool. I'm so glad you live in Hawaii. That's amazing. But now I have a person that does that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Because and authors will say like, oh, I want to move my book forward 4 weeks. I'm having, an issue. I'm like, yeah, life, take it from me. I know exactly what that's like.
Mhm.
It's not good to not feel good. I get it. But that just triggers like a whole list of things that we all have to do. We have to
Dominoes.
change schedule. Yeah. It's not just like, oh yeah, move it forward 4 weeks. There's a whole string of things that will happen after that trigger
Mhm.
work for 4 people,
Mhm.
which is fine, but we do it. But they used to, like I said, when the onus of that is all on one person, it can. I was feeling like you were feeling, so I'm
Yeah.
glad we brought these people on when I wasn't well, and when I started feeling better, I'm like, oh, it turns out you don't have to be really sick to have help. It's great. I love
Yeah.
having help. Help is
It's
good.
okay to say I need help. Yeah. So last
Help is
question.
great.
I know you're a really busy person, as we all are. I don't want to keep you too much longer, but last question. Distribution is such a big thing in publishing, and indie authors near impossible to get books into bookstores, maybe some indie bookstores and consignment and things like that. So how do you handle uh, your authors and books in bookstores, and how important do you think that is at this point in the industry, since ebooks are such a big and growing segment of sales?
Yeah, and that's a good question. So from day one, I wanted it to be very easy for authors to get their books into bookstores because
Mhm.
I'm an author and I know what it's
Mhm.
like to get all the way
Mhm.
up to the end and have a bookstore even talk to you and then like, oh, we can't order your books because so goodbye.
Yeah.
So I never wanted that to be a thing. So from the first, we signed up with Ingram many years ago now. I actually went to a cocktail party and I met the woman that created it, and she was amazing, and we're still friends. And gave me a person inside Ingram I've been working with since we got there, and he's lovely. And now
That's
he's our
great.
business analyst. He's like, you guys are doing great. I'm like, thanks. But I feel like he helped me put my first book out. So I'm like, he's seen this massive growth. So we've from the beginning always did the deepest discount available and returnable. So
Mhm.
every book, and that's a risk because we could sell 10,000 books and then 4,000 of them come back. So
Mhm.
that's not real money yet. You have to wait. You have to wait on that cycle.
Yeah.
So that but I knew that going in because again, I think it's beneficial that I've been an author and I've been on the other side and I know sort of what the kind of the process.
Yeah, it
So
gives
we
you a
do
different
that.
perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't, not everyone is a salesperson like me. So we give them arcs. Um, so they get 5 physical arcs and then they get ebooks. They get e-arcs that they can give to anybody for blurbs, reviews, that kind of
You're
thing.
talking about the
And we work
authors.
with,
That's what you give to the authors.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We give them that. But they can also walk into a bookstore with that and be like, here, I can, like, it's a reader copy. We give
Yeah.
them sell sheets and everything else like that. But that's distribution is a big thing. And we always want that to be a thing. So we're
Mhm.
in V- I'm not like a VIP class with Ingram. So I have my own dedicated business analyst and a team of reps now that work on, because we have a ton of titles. So I'm getting clued in on some enhancements they're about to make to their systems, and that is really exciting.
Mhm.
So we're currently very, very happy with Ingram.
Mhm.
Um, we also have been entertaining partnering up with a larger
Mhm.
distributor for certain books and different things. So
Mhm.
that's something we're working on for this year, but I can't talk about it too much because we're still talking. But
Mhm.
going back to always looking how to grow the business, how to make things better.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, that's my focus all the time.
And
I don't see
library
that.
sales. How do library sales work?
We actually with Baker and Taylor,
Mhm.
but Ingram does a big part of our libraries too. And libraries are buying a lot more ebooks nowadays, I've noticed. So we get a lot of ebook sales for their catalogs. All of our books are
Mhm.
in a lot of libraries around the country too. ebook is an interesting question that you brought up, because I thought that would be, it's pretty even for us. It's like we
Mm,
sell almost as many ebooks as we do paperbacks. We sell a lot of physical books.
mhm.
It's interesting. So yeah, I don't know exactly why, because I don't like to collect a lot of physical books because I don't have a large home, and
Right.
I hate having I like having them on my Kindle. Although then I do miss having a book in my hand. So I go to my library a lot.
Mhm,
So if I want a book to hold in my hand, I go to the library. So
mhm.
yeah, but I'm a book fan. But yeah, anything we can do to make it easy for our authors to get out there and talk about their books and sell them, we're all on board for that.
And what's your I lied, I have one more question. What is your, royalty structure for authors? Because, with the big
It
publishers,
varies.
authors make pennies.
Yeah. Um, we have, so it's different for each category. So like ebooks are one thing, and then paperbacks are a different split, but it's industry standard. I guess I could say that. So it's, don't go into it thinking you're going to be a millionaire. I guess I can say that, because we
Yeah.
take a piece and then you get a piece. So
Mhm.
sometimes I think authors are like, oh, my book is $16. I will get $16 when they sell a book. I'm like, oh, that's not
No.
how it really goes.
No.
Especially if you're with a press that has our business design, because we're a POD press currently still. There
Mhm,
are some titles we're doing small print runs for, and we're going to be hopefully moving into more of that. The thing I can't talk about
mhm.
um, yet. But so there's that. But I also, it's important to know that there's the printing costs, there's shipping costs, there's all these other costs that, and I was, when I first started doing, like, wow, so we net, a couple bucks, and then
Mhm.
you get some of that.
Yeah,
So
I know.
it's going to be $1 or $2 a book. It's not a lot, but if you indie pub, then you get all of it yourself.
Mhm.
That's just part of it. But that's
Yeah,
something
but
to
you
study
also
if you're
have
looking.
to be able to turn around and invest money in marketing and in, figuring out how the industry works and sending out the ARCs and building a team to get reviews and all of those things yourself, which is a whole separate job. So, there's pros and cons to it.
And designing a book cover yourself sometimes looks like you design a book cover yourself. So you might have
Yeah.
to pay for a book cover, which will be another investment. So you're putting
Mhm.
in a lot of front money if you're doing it yourself. And you should
Mhm.
have an editor. You should really honestly pay for an editor too, or two.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you need a
So it's just,
developmental line editor and a copy editor. Definitely.
yeah, yeah. It's just like making dinner at home or going out to eat. You're going to pay more to go out to eat, but you're going to get different things and maybe surprised.
Well, thank you so much for taking your time to talk with me today. It's been really fascinating, and I really admire everything that you've done and what you have created, taking Level Best from just the anthologies to what it is today with, you said, 172 authors, I think, or 175.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean,
Yep, somewhere in there.
that
It's probably a little bit more. This airs, will be a few more than that, but it seems like we're always adding.
that's incredible, and, if you look at your list on the website, it's pretty amazing. You've got some great authors there, you've got beautiful covers, you've got such quality books, so you've created something really special, and I really admire that, and thank you for taking the time to talk with me about it.
Oh, that. Thank you so much. You've really made my whole month by inviting me on here, and it's just nice to talk to someone knowledgeable about the industry, and I feel like a simpatico with you.
Yeah,
I feel like we have very similar
I know.
yet different things, but we have similar things, and it's just nice to get to know you better, because I've known of you for a long time, and now I feel like I know you a lot better
I
too.
know, yeah,
Thank you so much
same,
for the honor.
same.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. It was wonderful.
Great. Well, best of luck to you, and we will have you back again. I would love to talk more and pick your brain and see what else you can share with our listeners here to just sort of help them on their journey. So I'll be back in touch.
Anytime. I'll come back Yeah, yeah. I'll be back anytime you want me. I'll
Okay,
be definitely be. This was really, really fun.
great. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for listening and spending your time with me today, everyone. I'm Melissa Bourbon, and this is the Writer Spark podcast. Take a moment to visit our website at www.writersparkacademy.com. Check out our courses, our resources, and all the content there. And I will see you next time. Until then, happy writing.